Who are the standouts from OTAs and mandatory minicamp on the offense? That's what we're here to talk about today. It's orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason, and Mace. We start this show with what we start a lot of shows with Bo Nix, with the kid, man. We've seen him in practice this entire offseason. Things look pretty good.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this on one of the Wednesday shows. He did have an interception, but it's a learning experience type of interception. But the thing is, what you like about Bo Nix is the command that he has at the line of scrimmage, how much he's learned about the offense, how he's already showing that advanced ability that you need as a pro quarterback to manipulate safeties, to read things and diagnose pre-snap and make the checks at the line. And on top of that, you hear this from player after player. And I heard this a bunch of times last night when I was over at the UC Healthy Swings event down at Coors Field. Heard this from Bronco players. The word you hear most often is mature, that he walks in, and even though it says R next to his name on the roster, this is not someone with the maturity level that you would expect for a newbie coming in. He's mature beyond his years.
Yeah, mature beyond his years and showing that leadership out there. I think from OTAs and mandatory minicamp, we really saw the way he's going to lead. And it's serious, but also he's not against having fun. Stiddy's a lot of fun. Jarrett Stidham is a lot of fun. His teammates love him. Nix is going to have a little bit of that, not as much as Stiddy. Even Joe Lombardi told us, like, oh, there's a dry sense of humor there with that kid. Yeah, okay, we get it. We get it.
It's a dry sense of humor that I think some guys are going to have to really listen to get. But then with dry senses of humor, the more you get to know somebody, the more those usually get appreciated. And so it's one of those things where there are some types of personalities where the more you're around them, the less you want to be around them. Bo Nix is the opposite. The more you're around him, the more you get to know him, the more you get him, the more you want to be around him, because it's, he's got a dry sense of humor. He has command when he walks into the room, but it's not haughty, right? It's not, he's not going in and kind of looking down on everyone else as being below him. That's not Bo Nix, and he can relate to guys in that locker room. And there are things he can learn from Jarrett Stidham, but Bo Nix brings a lot to the table as well in that regard. And it's the little things. It's when he steps into the huddle, looking at the way he kind of puts his hand on a player's back or on a player's helmet and kind of brings everybody in. There's, I saw a lot of good body language from Bo Nix in the practices we saw over the last month. That's really encouraging.
Connective. That's what it feels like. Now, you got a chance to catch up with Zach Allen last night, and you asked him about Bo Nix. Here's what the veteran defender had to say.
Yeah, I think he's really mature. Obviously for a rookie, the way that he just conducts himself on and off the field is really impressive. And, he's just, a great guy, great player, and that's all you can ask for. And, obviously it's early, and I won't say I'm a genius at quarterback play, so I'm not going to, act like I know what I'm looking at. But there's definitely some throws that are really impressive, and, excited to see, kind of how things play out.
Impressive throws. Bo Nix doesn't get enough credit for that. We talk about the accuracy, but people will say he doesn't have arm talent because he doesn't have velocity like some other quarterbacks do. It doesn't mean he doesn't have arm talent. To me, accuracy is arm talent.
Pass placement is arm talent.
It's something you can work on, but it's still talent to kind of get the ball into the right spot. And what we were seeing far more often than not is Bo Nix putting it in the right spot. And then, when he's under duress, when he's under pressure and has to go off platform because you can't get your feet set in a way that you can when you've got a clean pocket, he's got accuracy there too. And that's one of the things that really excites me long-term about Bo Nix, is knowing that he has that off-balance accuracy when a team blitzes him and he's got to get the ball away. He has the off-platform accuracy, the ability to quickly read and diagnose, it's going to be tough for defenses to handle the Broncos when they blitz Bo Nix, because what we've already seen is an ability to find the open receiver and find the gap in coverage when he's blitzed. That's where that quick processor comes into play.
Yeah, and as Davis Webb said yesterday, they're not going to be check down Charlies, right? They're going to have some aggression. So when Nix does that, Mace, I want to alert the viewing audience, like, it's not because he's a dump off guy. It's because he knows where that dump off is, but he ain't looking at the dump off.
Yep.
He's looking to attack, and if he has to, he will dump it off. Now,
and here's the thing.
Take it.
You know, you can't go broke taking a profit, right? If you do that on 2nd and 10 and you dump it off, maybe you'll get 5 or 6 yards and set up 3rd and very makeable. But maybe you get in the right spot, and let's say you get to Jaleel McLaughlin, another guy we're going to talk about here, and he makes somebody miss.
Now it's a house call.
Now it's an explosive.
Mm-hmm.
And you love that. That's what a lot of the explosive plays this year when Bo Nix gets out there, I think, and I'd even say with Jarrett Stidham too, a lot of the explosive plays are going to look like that. They're going to be yak plays. Mm-hmm. And there may be a lot of yak plays for the running backs, and Jaleel in particular could be the guy who capitalizes the most, which is really exciting.
Yeah, now you got to catch up with Jaleel last night. I think we should start with what he talked about last year, because he did leave a lot on the table. Now think of that, where Russell Wilson would throw him a screen, but it wasn't clean. And so then he has to either fight to get the ball, or it's not in a position where he can maximize yak. Now, Jaleel didn't say that, but I'll say it. You'll say it. Like, that's what happened. This year, Jaleel can do more. Here's what he told you on leaving it on the table last year.
I think it's me watching film and noticing that, hey, look, I didn't even do half the stuff, that I was supposed to do out there. I feel like it's a lot that I left out there on the football field, and that's what makes me hungry and ever. Just knowing that I'm playing at the highest level possible, and I left a lot out there on the football field, and that's what I want to do. I'm not going to do that this year.
Left a lot on the field. I love that. Like, wow. He had a rookie season that, by every reasonable measure as an undrafted rookie, was a smashing success. And yet the thing that's driving him is the yards he didn't make. Even though we can go through, and we discussed it all the time, like how the use of him was a tell, and defenses would go, when they saw him out there, defenses would shade over to knowing he was going to get the ball in all likelihood. It was, for that multi-game stretch, as we talked about, 70% of the time he was out there, he was targeted or he was getting the football. And defenses adapted accordingly. Now, the key to getting around that's going to be pass protection and having that ability to where it's not a tell when he's out there, that sometimes he may stay out there and pick up a blitz, and sometimes he may chip and help out Mike McGlinchey or Garett Bolles. Sometimes he'll be an obstruction on an A-gap blitz. All that. If that's in play, certainly you'll see more of him. But even with the plays that he was out there, I like the fact that he was focused on how could I have done more. Not, I wish Russ had better placed the ball. He put it on himself. And this is another thing you like about his personality, Cecil, is the fact that he doesn't look anywhere else when something goes wrong. He looks at himself. That's what a true pro does, and that's what Jaleel does.
Speaking of pro, Jaleel knows he must be better in pass pro. When the pads come on, we'll see the work that he's done. But he told you last night how, he's working on it.
Yeah, working on my footwork. Working on my footwork in pass pro is really, really big. I know the pads aren't there. You're not able to get the big punches in that you need. But working on my footwork in pass pro and being able to see different blitzes, see different coverages, being in the right spot at the right time, and also shooting my hands. I've been working on that as well. So yeah, man.
Look how excited he is talking about it. Like at the end.
About work.
Man. Yes. The work, the dirty work that is being put in. Like every running back wants to be able to take it to the house. That part, that's the easy part, man. The hard part is working on blocking. The hard part is getting the hand placement right. The hard part is sitting there and watching more film and learning how to diagnose blitzes so he can anticipate them pre-snap. So he can help a quarterback, especially a young quarterback like Bo Nix, if it ends up being him, so he can help the quarterback ID that as well. Like that level of intensity toward his study and improving his habits, it reminds me of what CJ Anderson was back when he was here a decade ago and he was around Peyton Manning. And that's kind of where he got that level of that he had to reach in terms of intense study and intense work. Jaleel, to his credit, has that without having Peyton Manning in his ear. I think which says an awful lot about just how much of a self-starter this young man is.
Right, and excited about that work. The team is excited to use him, certainly. And could he be more than a change of pace? Perhaps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perhaps. The other thing also, you and I talk a lot about how the proof is going to be in the pudding in pass pro when you put the pads on, and that is obvious. But the work he's done to this point has clearly caught eyes based on the extent of his use out there during OTAs. Like he was, the way watching him out there, I mean, there are a lot of us that were watching that thought, are we seeing a potential RB1? Based on the way he looked and the way he was being utilized.
It's worth asking the question, Mason, if the running back combination was Jaleel's your starter and Perine's your kind of change of pace, power can be a change of pace.
Yes.
Would that surprise you at all if it's Jaleel and Perine?
No, maybe Perine assumes the same role we had last year.
It's perfect.
He was like your closer coming out of the bullpen when you were trying to win a game at the end.
Hey, I get that reference. Yeah, it could easily be that. Jaleel gives you a pucker factor.
Yeah.
If you're a defense and this Sean Payton offense is being run the way it's supposed to be run, and you have that guy,
yeah.
Hey, all right, I see it.
I see it too.
I see it.
And it's interesting how many times Sean Payton references Alvin Kamara and how they got a hold of Kamara and realized that he could have a bigger role than they anticipated. And I think that's on his mind because of what he's seeing with Jaleel McLaughlin on a daily basis. This guy who's in the building at 5:15, he's up in his office asking for more. And then not only doing all that extra work, going on the field and then backing it up. That's another thing. You can, let's face it, sometimes you can do all the film work, all the individual repetition work, all the technique work in the world, and then you go out there when it's 11 on 11 and it's not there. Well, that's not the case with Jaleel. He's going out there and he's able to take what he's learned, what he's ingested, and make it apply out there and make him succeed out there.
Literally run with it. Joe Lombardi talked about Jaleel McLaughlin. Here's what Coach had to say.
I mean, one thing you know about Jaleel is he's going to work hard. I mean, whatever you ask him to do, he's going to work at it. So, you've seen that, obviously we're not in pads, so you can't see everything, but just as far as his intention and assignment on pass protection has been outstanding. And, I don't know if there's anyone that works harder than him. So he's just, his speed, his acceleration, his explosiveness has all been impressive this spring.
His intention. Yes.
Pick that up.
Basically, what Joe Lombardi is saying is that he's putting himself in the right place and he's doing the right things technique-wise. Now it is simply a matter of what happens in the physical collision. Again, what we're not going to find out until pads go on. Although Jaleel did tell me last night he's done some work in the weight room. He feels like he's stronger than he was last year. And the encouraging thing about that is, based on what we've seen the last few weeks, he's stronger. And you talk to him, he looks looks like he's got a little more muscle to him now. But he's lost none of the quickness. He may actually be quicker than he was last year, based on what we were seeing. Now, some of that is also familiarity with the scheme, and that's something offense and defense with continuity. I heard from a lot of guys last night about how they feel like they're thinking less because of their familiarity with the scheme, and so that makes you quicker as well. But there's no denying that Jaleel McLaughlin, to me, looks faster than he did last year.
Right. It looks faster and looks like the team's about ready to use that fast quite a bit. Now, we could go on, as we often do, about a lot of players on offense, but kind of our last section of today's show has to do with Lucas Kroll.
Yeah.
Is there a player, I'm not going to say come out of nowhere, because that wasn't the case for us or our view on audience, but like going into this offseason, we didn't know what we would get from Greg Dulcich. We were told some stuff. That stuff didn't happen. So it's like, again, Mace, not come from nowhere, but it's like we enter the offseason with, I don't know. And then all of a sudden at the end, we're done with mandatory minicamp. And I can tell you, Lucas Kroll looks like TE1.
He looks very much the part. I do want to see, again, cliche, when the pads go on, because the thing that could really distinguish him is that he can go in line. He's got the size to go in line and help out in pass protection and help out in run blocking. And that's something that Greg Dulcich does not possess. Mm-hmm. So if Kroll is 90% of the dynamic pass catcher of Greg Dulcich, but with his frame, with the size that he has, with the muscle that he has, because he's got about 25 pounds on Greg Dulcich right now.
Mm-hmm.
That if that allows him to line up in line and align himself next to the tackle and be an effective part of the running game, then again, same thing we talk about with Jaleel McLaughlin. It's not a tell when he's out there, and you've got the ability to move him around. Like Bo Nix or Jarrett Stidham can get up to the line of scrimmage, identify a coverage, and then all of a sudden, oh, Lucas, you're in line, but you have enough speed to split out and go in the slot. Or you identify something else, you can bring him back in, and he can be an effective blocker. And so that's why if Kroll takes this and makes it translate to the full pad work, then he may simply be ahead of Greg Dulcich on the depth chart, period, even though Dulcich might be healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you can have the two tight end package with Troutman and Kroll, and they're both blockers, but they're not blockers. Again, declaration of influence. You have Kroll on the field. I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
You have Dulcich on the field. I kind of know what he's going to do.
Yeah. They're probably not running to Dulcich's side, okay, if he's out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it. The more you can put on a defense's plate to leave them guessing, the better your chances of success, the better your chances are of catching them off guard. And unfortunately for the Broncos last year, too often they didn't catch opponents off guard. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why Chris Manhertz, as dependable blocker as he is, isn't here anymore. Obviously, they had to make some moves cap-wise because of the $53 million crater of Russell Wilson's deal. But to go to your thing about declaration of influence, Manhertz out there as a declaration, you're probably running the ball.
Yeah. It's coming at you.
Yeah. The reason why Adam Troutman was tight end number 1 was because it wasn't a tell when he stepped onto the field. He wasn't the best at any particular aspect of the tight end position in that tight end room, but he was capable in everything. And there's value to that, which is why the Broncos brought him back. The other part of his value, of course, is as a mentor in that room. And he is a particularly strong mentor to Lucas Kroll, who, it's to Troutman's credit that he wants to take somebody under his wing. And it was to Kroll's credit in New Orleans back in 2022 that he figured out Adam Troutman's a guy worth listening to.
Yep. He's figured that out. And we've figured something out about Sean Payton, Mace. You want to get him in a good mood? Talk to him about Jaleel or Kroll. Do you get the same feel like he almost glows when he talks about Jaleel? And when he talks about Kroll, just watch this and see the look on the coach's face.
Man, I thought he's had a good week, And I said, you know, if you didn't notice, everyone in the media was looking down at their rosters to see who 85 was. And I said, someday soon they're going to know who 85 is. He's looking sharp.
Even when he was sick as a dog answering that question.
Yeah, he was under the weather.
Like, you know, on the weapons grade cold and cough medication, obviously. Even with that, there was still a spark when talking about Lucas Kroll.
I love the timing of that. Serendipity, right? It's like Lucas Kroll, everybody.
Uh-huh.
Bing!
Bing!
Lucas
You can
Kroll.
hear the choir of angels. When we talk about Lucas Kroll, we talk about Jaleel McLaughlin. Yeah, it's... And you want to know something? I don't mean to pat ourselves on the back, or as I say, sprain our shoulder, patting ourselves on the back. You know who first asked about Jaleel McLaughlin last year? Who first asked Sean Payton about Jaleel?
Yours truly, huh?
Yeah. You know who asked that question about Lucas Kroll?
Yep.
Yeah. We see it. He sees it.
Yep.
And if you watch our show, you see it.
You see it as well. And that's why we appreciate you all. And it's fun to watch because you know what we're talking about as we wrap up today's show? We just talked about Nix, Jaleel, and Kroll. I'm not saying triplets, but that's a core. That's a core, right?
It's building a core. Then it's the wide receivers along with that. And those are TBD, but in terms of how that room shakes out. But boy, I mean, one guy that we could talk about when we're rattling off OTA standouts is Josh Reynolds. Still have to catch myself not referencing a former Colorado Rocky. Josh Reynolds didn't practice on Wednesday. He was feeling a little hurt. They just didn't want to take any chances, but
he's put in the work.
He's putting in the work, and the thing I want to talk to him about is he put in a little work with his hands? Because in the practices we saw, he didn't drop a pass.
Zero.
And that's why he sat on the shelf for a couple of weeks in free agency, and why Detroit didn't want him back. It was the drops. That's it. Everything else about Josh Reynolds, route running, size, ability to make catches in traffic, everything else is there, but he was dropping too many passes. If he cuts that drop rate, the Broncos are going to get an absolute steal for the investment cap-wise.
Yep.
Which is what they need when you're trying. The only way this works out is if you've got guys playing above their cap number, whether you're talking about someone like Josh Reynolds, who's a veteran, or young players thrust into the spotlight on minimum deals.
Yep. I'm not saying he's Emmanuel Sanders, but when the Broncos got an E, it was 3 years, $12 million. What a bargain. Absolute bargain from coming over from Pittsburgh. So again, he's not Emmanuel, different style of receivers. But you need that. You need that. What we need from you, Mace, is a little help here on YouTube. We're over 12,000 subscribers. We're growing. We're rolling. Let's keep this thing going. But about 52% of you, I am obsessed with those numbers, aren't subscribed that watch. Like, please subscribe. Help us out, Mace. How can they do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
and hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss a vid.
That's
right. He's Andrew Mason. Follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.